Hey, welcome to the One Life podcast, where we talk about things from One Life Church, but ultimately things we think can relate to you and your one and only life. I'm one of your co-hosts, Sarah Inman, and normally I'm joined by our lead pastor and co-host of the podcast, Brett Nicholson, but he's not here today. So I got some other friends who we get to hang out with today. We're going to have some conversation talking a little bit about being a part of a team, whether that's inside of a church or in our setting, what our kind of local expression, what that looks like. Maybe we'll hear some examples from some things they've been a part of or people that they know have been a part of teams. And so I'm joined by Matt Breivogel, who was actually on the podcast last week as well. So 2 weeks in a row.
It's feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, Matt's great to have on here.
I'm honored.
Oh, well, thanks for joining. And you're sitting in Brett's seat, so if you're watching, that's where Matt is. And Matt is he is our creative arts director here at One Life Church, and then also pastor at our West Campus. So, and just a part of multiple things here at One Life Church. We all get to do a lot of different things, which is fun most of the time. And joined by Andy Miles, who is the Next Generation Director. We say Next Gen a lot, so you might hear us saying Next Gen. That stands for Next Generation. Every time I say that to my mom, she's like, "What's Next Gen?" The Next Generation. Yeah. Next Generation Director for our East Campus. And Andy has been being a part of kids ministry and Next Generation ministry for how long?
17 years.
Okay.
Well, so One Life is only 10 years old, but
Right.
I've been doing ministry for, about 17 years.
So you've been around some people being involved in teams and have some experience.
For a little bit,
Yeah. Yourself being a part of teams and even in your role. So let's even start right there. So kind of when we look at kids ministry, because I know that's kind of where most of your focus is, what are some of the things that maybe people don't know goes into making that happen every week?
Oh, gosh, that's a big question. There's a lot of things that go into making kids ministry happen. So kind of behind the scenes, we have people who are preparing stuff for leaders for Sunday so that they can come in and get straight to, focusing on the relationships with the kids. They don't have to worry about prepping. They don't have to worry about a lot of things because there's people behind the scenes doing that. So, but then, there's connecting as teams throughout the week, and there's scheduling, and there's all kinds of stuff that happen just to behind the.
And I'm thinking even just generally, it doesn't have to be things that just happen at One Life, but I think any church that I've visited, whether our church or a church that I've visited since I've been on staff here, like there's always these things that you see happening and you're like, someone had to make that happen.
Right.
Someone had to kind of be prepared ahead of time to make sure that, when preschoolers walk in, that there's something going on for them and a place for them to belong. Yeah. Matt, any kind of stories come to mind, whether you've been on a team or people that have been connected to a team that have just been a really positive experience?
Yeah, there's probably a few, but I think the first thing that comes to mind is just since I came to One Life, probably in their second year after we launched in 2010, it was immediately known that being a part of One Life was getting involved in a group or team. And so we just jumped in on a kids ministry team in Henderson, Amanda and I, and it just immediately felt part of something. It wasn't just coming on Sunday mornings. And so for us, we immediately were meeting people that we would never have been in relationship before, getting to know them. Being in kids ministry was fun because at pickup time, you're meeting parents and things like that. So for us, it was really cool just to get to know more people in the church, even on surfacey levels, but then the people you serve with, getting to know them on deeper levels and creating the opportunity to do that during service time was pretty cool for us getting into it. And I know recently at West, as we've been trying to push for 2 services, people have been getting on teams, and some people who served this past week on guest services, they had been coming for a few years and had never took that step into getting plugged in, and now are just experiencing that. And it's kind of fun to watch them just now after seeing them in service for the past few years and knowing them just start to get plugged in into a team and experience kind of like what you said behind the scenes, because we have a high volunteer capacity at One Life. I don't know what our ratio would be, but I'm guessing it's higher than most churches for as volunteers who do a big part of what goes on Sunday mornings. So
well, and I said a few weeks ago on social media, we're running about 400 kids. If you look at all 3 of our campuses, we have 400 kids and 1 person on staff dedicated to that. So we are very volunteer driven and rely on them. And
And it's really interesting. It's fascinating when we think about that, because the amount of people that come in and say, I want to be a part of making that happen. I feel like for us, as we are staff members of One Life Church, but really a lot of our job is resourcing volunteers.
Right.
And people ask sometimes, like, what do you do throughout the week? Like, well, you work on Sunday, but what do you do the rest of the week? Well, there's a lot of other things that happen, to make Sunday happen, but also things that we as One Life Church want to continue to do that are not just about Sunday morning. And some of that is, like Andy mentioned, teams meeting together and having a space for people to belong to, and even guest services. I know that's one thing. So here at One Life, we have guest services, kind of like a hospitality team, maybe some other churches might call it. And it's always been that it's always really interesting when you see people that connect to each other there and then hang out outside of that Sunday morning experience. So even just creating relationships through a team because you share a common thing that you want, whether it's in kids ministry, to just impact the next generation. And that can look different in a lot of different ways. So, I mean, I know you have elementary kids and preschool kids and nursery, and we have student ministry here at One Life Church. And so I'm just fascinated to think about, I was actually processing the question of my own experience when I first started coming to One Life, and I got connected pretty quickly to student ministry and joined a team. And we actually met every Friday morning for about 2 months at 6 a.m. at Donut Bank. So it's a donut shop here in Evansville. And it was funny because I would have never done that by myself, because one, that's really early. I don't like to get up that early. And two, I was like, I don't really know these people that well, but it created an opportunity for me to get to know people and then also join a team. And so one of the girls there, like the third week we met, she was like, hey, you want to do middle school girls with me? And I'm like, yeah, we can lead middle school girls together. And my first reaction was like, why did I say that? I don't want to lead middle school girls. I wanted to hang out with high school girls. And then we ended up having a great 7-year kind of run with those girls, and it's been a great experience. But really all that was just connecting to people first, and then being able to connect as a team together. So some things seem really overwhelming, but when you're doing them with other people, it's so much better.
It is, and it's fun to see the care that happens on teams when people do get to do that. And so I remember last year I go to nursery 2, and I pop in and I was surprised. I didn't know what was happening, but there was a baby shower happening right before service about to start. They're loving on one of the volunteers who was getting ready to have a baby, and just giving them gifts and showering her with affection and showing that she's seen and cared for. And that was happening on a Sunday morning. So it's kind of cool. You're not just showing up to just serve and get out of there. You're actually getting opportunities like that to care for one another. And that's very, very biblical as well. Like, just coming and being part of something. When you're part of a church, you're part of a group of people. You hopefully don't come just to take from it, but you're called to give to one another as well. So,
and I think something really happens too in your heart when you are giving of your time. You find value and purpose, and not only do you find community, but you find just in your own life just that purpose. I know for me, it's hard to ever commit to one role on a Sunday morning. But if I can sit with a small group of elementary kids on a Sunday morning, I walk away from there and my heart is so full because I got to spend time creating relationship with these kids. So yeah, anytime that you can give of your time, and you just feel value in yourself.
Yeah. And as part of the generosity side, we say that we do life in groups and teams because Jesus did. Right. Something that we follow because we, want to model our lives after Christ. That's the example that we've been given, and we study that as a church, and we see that he did his life with people and in groups. And so we see that. We want to continue that and model that here at our church, and we think anyone who is getting involved in teams, that there's a value there for sure. Andy, any stories either for you personally where you've been involved in a team that you're like, man, I can't imagine if I wouldn't have been connected to them, or someone that as you get to meet with a lot of volunteers?
There's a lot. There's so many wins and stories. And as I just kind of look over East, especially in our kids ministry, and just the relationships that I've seen, kind of like what Matt said, when you look into a room and you see them loving on each other, I mean, that's just huge. And we have, we have teams here that have been together since the beginning. And I think back, like, for instance, we just did the Centered series for kids ministry. And that was, we wrote our own curriculum, we recorded, it was weeks, months of preparing all that. But there was something beautiful in that with this team that went over and above
Yeah.
what they normally do on a Sunday morning. But it was so fun to do together. It was a lot of work, but we just came out of that like, oh, that was really fun. It was hard.
Something you're proud of too when you see
Yeah.
the end of it. And then I think for that specifically, and we've talked about the Centered series multiple times here on the podcast, and you can always check that out at onelifechurch.org/centered. Find some of the videos that we did for the adults, and then we also have our kids videos available as well. You can see some of the teaching that we created there. But I remember like at the time, there's times you leave and you're like, I'm so tired. That was a lot of work. And then you see kids engaging in it
Right.
and talking about it. And I know, Matt, your kids still like will talk about things that happened in it, or a character that you've played in it or something like that. And
Yeah.
it's fascinating to see the work that goes into that. But the team that came together to said, we value kids and we want to make sure that they have really great content as well.
Yeah, at least once a month, I get called out as Rob Floss, which is really funny. But, you know, I was just thinking too, one thing I didn't expect and really know what to expect with doing 3 locations too, the amount of ownership that comes in of just One Life in general with volunteers is when we did our last project, we kind of did a call out, you know, of who wants to be involved in producing that. It might have been the one before the last, musically, from all 3 locations, and people on worship teams who are all volunteers. You know, they came out and said, okay, I just want to be involved on some level. And then you have, not only are you getting to know people on your own teams at your campus, but sometimes people go above and beyond, and then they get to know people on other campuses out of their love of music and production. And a project is an event we've put on every once in a while where we pick a topic and we present it as if everybody in the room are unbelievers. And we do that through art, music, film, teaching, and all those things. And we had people come out. We have people produce parts for those things. And it's really cool to see just people coming around the unity of the church when all 3 campuses are involved in something. What we can pull off
Right.
is really cool too.
Yeah.
And that same thing happens with like Big Deal Theater sometimes.
Yeah. Big Deal, it's the same thing. If you don't know what Big Deal Theater is,
Tell us, Andy.
It's a family event. We should have one coming up in May. And what that is we're just providing an opportunity for families to come together and kind of get a glimpse of what we do on a Sunday morning. Kids get to see it every Sunday, but parents don't always get to enjoy it too. So it's just a time where they can enjoy it together. And learn together. But yeah, those are big events that we have to pull together and put on as a team. It takes a lot of time and energy. But when we're done, we are so pumped because we have done something and created something and brought families together. And it's a win.
And it's a unifying experience for
Yeah.
every volunteer involved
Yeah.
in a cool way.
I think that's something I was thinking about, like that even as we're talking about some of these things, they seem like these are big events, and there's a lot of things that happen in our church, and I'm sure at every church where you're listening, maybe the church you're involved in, there's a lot of things that maybe aren't as don't take as much time as that, like a large event like that. So like for me, I lead one of our broadcast teams here at our church, and so basically we have a group of people that make sure that the video, the live recording, gets broadcasted to our other 2 campuses because we have 3 campuses, and so that's once every 3 weeks. We try to get together and just kind of connect, ask some questions, get to know each other, connect to each other, grow in faith. That's one of our values, and being able to do that with each other. And so there's a lot of opportunities to get connected, but I still think one of my favorite things, even with that, even if you just meet 3 people on a team, the next time that you come into the building, you feel like, hey, there's my people. There's someone that you know, there's someone you can connect to. You don't feel alone, because it's very easy, especially if you're new to church or kind of exploring faith or exploring a new church. It's very easy to feel like you're alone, and you don't have a spot to belong. And finding a group or a team to connect to is so important to do early on, I think. I mean, for me, I had to do that, or I don't think I would have stayed as involved and gotten as involved and probably not be on staff here. But there's just a huge value there. And I think that anyone who's processing, like, man, I don't know what team to check out, just find out what's going on. What are you interested in? Is there something that you really think you would love to do and be a part of making that happen through your ministry, or maybe just finding a space to just meet some people. So even starting somewhere.
Getting in community, it's like the next if you haven't done it, it takes you to that next level, I think, of living out your faith, because it's just what we're called to do. I think of just simple illustrations in the Bible where Jesus warned Peter about when he was going to deny him, and he's like, but when you return, strengthen your brothers. And there's this beautiful thing that we all come, we're all flawed, but we come to serve. And even out of the things we've experienced in life, God opens up opportunities to bring people together to share what we've gone through and to build each other up in those moments, and God does that. He puts people in specific communities for a reason. And I've benefited from it like greatly in my life from trying to be in community. And yeah, sometimes it's kind of annoying. You don't want to get up early on a Sunday morning or don't want to go out on another evening to practice something or to set something up or to plan an event or something like that. But the relational side of it is a must, I think, for growing and living out your faith, because you have to do it with other people to come alongside you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And some of my favorite conversations that I've even had with volunteers are, hey, I've been doing this a long time and it's been great, but I'm really looking for something else that fits, my life right now. And just being able to sit and have those conversations, sometimes I think people get scared that they leave a role, but to be able to find that life, with life changing, find that fit for them is fun. And then to see them jump into that role and really win and flourish at it is just, it's exciting.
It is. And I was thinking even a couple weeks ago, I filled in, and I said that very lightly. I didn't mean this pun, at Lights. Sorry. This is just a bad joke. Lightly on Lights. I didn't really know what I was doing, but we needed someone to be in that spot. And I think even our lighting designers and sound designers and people who are running computer graphics on our worship and production teams, a lot of them probably didn't know how to do that when they started. It's something that they've learned and people have trained with them. And so that's exciting too. I think even if there's a skill, you're like, man, I'm not really sure. I like the idea of, for example, creating an environment with lights. I'd love to learn more about that. We'd love to train you in that. I mean, that's another way to continue even to grow a skill and to connect with a team. So there's some other things there too.
And there's a skill set to probably every area you'll serve, whether it's in kids or guest services. I mean, you learn to make coffee when you're at guest services, but your spiritual gift might be encouragement. And that's why you're needed there. Yeah, you're going to help fill up the coffee in the morning, but then you're going to be that face that welcomes people as they come in and encourages them, or encourages a member on your team who's having an off week or something like that. And that's how the church is ultimately built up. And it's a beautiful thing when you see it happening firsthand.
Yeah,
indeed. And so I think even, it's important for me to always kind of remind myself when we're asking people to be a part of teams, it's not because we just need to check a box or fill some spaces or say we have, 400 kids, we need people to hang out with them. It's generally we want people to be in community and to be able to connect with the people that they're getting to minister to. It's impactful on both sides, I think.
Yeah. And like Andy said, finding purpose is huge, and it's a big way to find it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Guys, kind of closing up, if you were, either sharing just a reason or a why, or a short story or reason for someone who's thinking about checking out a team, what would you say?
For me, it would be, don't overthink it. Maybe just try something. Easy entry would be, guest services or possibly a nursery or preschool team or something like that. But just get into community and see how it goes, and then kind of find where your perfect niche might be from there. Also, if you've never gone through our Kickstart class, that's also a good filter on how to find a best role for you on Sunday mornings.
Yeah. I would kind of echo what Matt said. I think that if you'll walk away with a feeling of, I'm glad I did that. And I don't think people would realize that. They're kind of more intimidated on the front side. I don't know how to teach, or I don't know, which is not what we're asking. If you love kids, if you love Jesus, it's really pretty simple. And I think that people don't realize what they're going to walk away with. And that is just a sense, like we said, a purpose, but just a full heart.
Yeah.
Of the difference they can make.
That's awesome. And we'd love to hear, maybe you're already serving on a team and a part of that, and you have loved that experience. We'd love to hear that story. A really easy way for us to hear your story, and if you'd allow us to share it as well, go to onelifechurch.org/story, STORY, and just let us know. We'd love to hear more of those things that have been impactful for you, and people that maybe have just been someone to help you connect to that. That'd be amazing for us to hear. Guys, thanks for joining me on the podcast. We had one without Brett. We probably should have done something a little crazier, but I don't know. I don't know what to do without Brett. He usually asks pretty good questions, but yeah. So
thanks.
Yeah, Andy,
That's fun.
You've been on one other time, right?
Yeah, it was just sound though, wasn't it? Like it wasn't video.
No, I think we videoed. I'll have to go back and look at it.
At the retreat?
Oh, so you've been on a couple times.
No, I've only been the retreat.
Oh,
Haven't I?
well, now I'm uncomfortable. Okay. Matt, thanks for joining and helping out. Appreciate it. And guys, if you have any questions or any questions about One Life Church, how you can get connected, you can go to onelifechurch.org. Find information there about all the places that we would love to connect you to. Or if you have a question you just want to ask us here, you can email us at podcast@onelifechurch.org. And if you heard anything here today that you think is great and you want other people to hear it, we'd love for you to share that out, whether on social media, give us a like or a comment on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to the podcast today. So thanks so much for joining us.
Good job, Sarah.
Oh, wow.